Dave loved being outdoors, and the Boundary Waters picnic area was one of his favorite places. My sister-in-law Susan found this from a book called No Ordinary Waters, Canoe Poems from a Strange Mind by Lenny Everson. My last weekend is over, my last campfire is cold, but spared at least a few portages on the trail of gold growing old. Sometimes when the canoes are beached and shadows walk the lake, remember me for the life I lived, the routes I chose to take. I was born to run those rivers that turn towards my dreams, too often forcing passage down narrow log-block streams. In a land where rivers run toward the far-off sea, I found love and shared a passage with some who cared for me. Stir the campfire proudly beside the rocky shore. Remember a man who loved the waters, a poet who is no more. Recite perhaps a line or two against the falling dark. Make them a part of the winds of night, like each dancing, fading spark. My maps are packed away now, the canoe still and dry. Oh, keep this world beautiful for travelers such as I.
This is an excerpt from words by Aaron Freeman. You want a physicist to speak at your funeral. You want the physicist to talk to your grieving family about the conservation of energy, so they will understand that your energy has not died. And at one point, you'd hope that the physicist would step down from the pulpit and walk to your broken-hearted spouse there in the pew and tell them that all the photons that ever bounced off your face, all the particles whose paths were interrupted by your smile, by the touch of your hair, Hundreds of trillions of particles have raced off like children, their ways forever changed by you. You can hope your family will examine the evidence and satisfy themselves that the science is sound and that they'll be comforted to know your energy is still around. According to the law of the conservation of energy, not a bit of you is gone. You're just less orderly.
We have come together this afternoon because Ronald David Underwood has died. We have come together in this place to carry his spirit forward. He who was once among us has gone from this world forever. And as people often do in times of loss, we gather. We come together to mark his passing. We come together to say goodbye. We honor and give thanks for the gifts Dave brought into our lives. We hold to our hearts the loss. We laugh with his spirit. And at some level, we continue the process of coming to terms with the realities of life and death. We hold such a service today, but it is not for Dave, for he is fine now. And this is important to understand. Dave is beyond all the pain and tribulations of this world. Dave has returned to the fundamental elements from which he arose, from which we all arose, the natural world that he loved so much. And it doesn't matter what your theology is. It doesn't matter if you consider yourself a Buddhist, a Christian, a pagan, a Unitarian Universalist, a Jew, a Muslim, a humanist, or nothing at all. If you believe that there is a loving God, then you know that Dave is right now being held in his love. If you believe that the fundamental forces of the universe are the impersonal laws of nature, then you know that Dave has returned to the earth. If you believe in reincarnation, then you know that he is moving again in the circle of life. Regardless of how you picture the great forces that move this universe, Dave has returned to them. Dave is at peace. This means that there is nothing that we mortals must do for him. Dave does not need us to intervene on his behalf. The truth is, it is we, those who are left behind, who are in need. We who must come to terms with his life and now his death. It is we who need such gatherings as this to feel the support of family and friends, to pause from our dailiness and listen to what is in our hearts, to share memories, to express our sadness that Dave is gone, and to say goodbye in the company of others. It is we who need the prayers today. And so in our various ways, we do pray. We may say a prayer for gratitude, giving thanks that we were fortunate to have Dave in our lives. We may say a prayer of sorrow, expressing the sadness and the loss that we feel through his death. We may say a prayer of joy, celebrating all the gifts that he brought into our lives and the many wonderful memories that we have of him. We may say a prayer of hope, that through our connection with Dave, we have learned more about the power and beauty of caring relationships, and that we will make them ever more a part of our lives. We may say a prayer of understanding, that we come to see and accept the cycles of life and death of which we are all a part, so that we can come to fear less and love more. This time we spend together this afternoon, this is a time of remembering Dave Underwood.
I invite everyone to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing with us Amazing Grace. And the lyrics are on the slides.
Dave Underwood was born in 1937 in the Cleveland suburb of Rocky River to an entrepreneurial English immigrant father and a mother who was a pioneering educator. He was the oldest of 3 sons. After high school, he studied mechanical engineering at Case Institute of Technology in Cleveland, Ohio, along with 3 summers working on ore freighters in the Great Lakes with the U.S. Merchant Marines. He met his wife Janet while she was in nursing school at St. Luke's Hospital in Cleveland, and they were wed by a Unitarian minister in 1960 before moving into married student housing at The Ohio State University. Their sons Todd and Kevin were born in Ohio, and then after Dave's brief career building ski lifts in the Northeast, they moved to Schaumburg, Illinois in 1967, where their 3rd son Joel was born. Moving to the land of Lincoln made Dave vulnerable to supporting the Cubs and the Illini, but his allegiance to the Cleveland Browns would remain for life. He had now transitioned to working as a sales engineer, designing and selling industrial paint systems for a few corporations before forming a company with 2 partners. In 1972, Dave and Jan fulfilled a dream by purchasing a getaway property in Spring Green, Wisconsin. And over the next few years, the family spent their weekends and summers building an octagon-shaped cabin that Dave designed in their wooded valley. As the boys grew, Dave also began lining up prospective sales calls all across the continental U.S. and used those as opportunities to take the family on countless working vacations with their travel trailer. In 1978, Dave and Jan began attending a Unitarian Universalist church located in a farmhouse way out west in Elgin, and it soon became their religious home. In 1981, they moved closer to that area and built a passive solar house in Gilbert's, Illinois, that Dave had designed. He also joined the Elgin Rotary Club that would become the focus of most of his community volunteer work for the next 40 years. There were many years when they hosted international Rotarians in their homes. Gradually, 8 grandchildren appeared on the scene, and as Dave and Jan entered into their retirement years, they attended as many soccer, volleyball, and cycling activities as they could, while also taking cross-country camping trips with their Airstream trailer. Those trips usually involved bird watching, canoeing, hiking portions of the Appalachian Trail, and even 2 highlight-filled road trips to Alaska. After his wife of 57 years passed away 5 years ago, Dave continued to live in their homes in Gilbert. He enjoyed family gatherings, a trip to Georgia with them 2 summers ago, and even gained a great-granddaughter last year. Jan was always on his mind, though, and it's nice to think of them being together again. The following video features a favorite UU hymn as the soundtrack, and if you're inspired to sing along, please do. The lyrics will be shown along the bottom.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me. Hail the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Thank you all for your love and support. My name's Todd. I'm Dave's eldest son. And it's hard to believe that we're here today for this reason. Dad was living independently at home until November, and then he injured his head in a fall. And the next 4 months were very hard for all of us. We are thankful, though, that Dad's out of his misery now. Here are just a few of the things that Dad taught me. How to downhill ski when I was 1 year old. My dad built me tiny homemade skis and glued them to a pair of boots when I was 1. He was installing ski lifts for a living in New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio at the time, and we got to play on them. Apparently, I would throw a crying fit when my parents tried to make me come into the lodge to warm up, and the other skiers would chastise them because they thought I was being forced to ski. Why don't you let him learn how to walk before you get him on skis? He also taught me a love of dogs and a penchant for persistence. We got a Westie puppy named Jordy when I was 4, and sadly had ingested rat poison and died. We immediately got another Westie puppy named Jordy, and it sadly was hit by a car and died. We immediately got another Westie puppy named Jordy, and he lived to the ripe old age of 17. So I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity to revere dogs and to not give up when things are not going as planned. He taught me how to be an amateur carpenter, electrician, plumber, and auto mechanic. I resented it at the time because every weekend and summer we were uprooted 3 hours away from our friends in Illinois to go build a cabin in the woods. The work was at times tedious and hard, but in retrospect, those skills I learned come into play nearly every day. He taught me that travel doesn't need to involve hotels. Our family managed to visit a large majority of the continental U.S. states while my brothers and I were growing up. And we did it all by roads and campgrounds. We had a travel trailer and stayed in hotels, and staying in hotels was never a consideration. Not knowing any different, we were happy to hang out at the campground tetherball courts instead of the spas. And except for one evening in Oklahoma when we rode out a tornado, I appreciated the freedom and the dirt that you could get into when you're not surrounded by cinder block walls. My love for camping and canoeing and kayaking has never diminished. Dad taught me my love for outer space. I vividly remember watching the first lunar landing live on TV at our grandparents' house. And then in December of 1972, we drove down to Cape Canaveral to watch the launch of the final Apollo mission from our trailer miles away. There were delays that pushed it past midnight, but the liftoff was incredible. It turned the sky from night into day as it rose up from the and it seemed to be silent until the thundering sound from the rocket engines eventually made its way to our ears. I'm still a NASA nerd today, and if you step outside at 8:33 tonight, you can watch the International Space Station float by for 5 minutes, starting in the western sky. Dad taught me to stick my neck out. As a card-carrying introvert, my nature is not to interact with strangers, but Dad was the opposite. He was always trying to draw on his skills and network of friends to help someone in need. As an example, he learned in 2011 that we had met a nice young man from South Korea at an international creativity competition in Tennessee. Without going through any official exchange channels, we were considering hosting him at our home so that he could attend school in America. It turned out that after his family visited us that summer in Illinois and interviewed with our public high school, his student foreign credentials were not eligible for attending there. And as his family prepared to return to Korea the next day, Dad proactively reached out to the headmaster at Elgin Academy, whom he knew from the Rotary Club, and he got them a Monday morning interview. It went so well that Jin ended up attending 3 years of high school there, meeting his future wife, and attending the University of Illinois while he was living with us. None of that would have happened without Dad offering his help, and I find myself doing much less monumental interventions all the time. He taught me how to go overboard in trying to help your children. As I was getting ready to graduate college, I wasn't too concerned with finding a job right away, but Dad definitely was. He had me write up a resume senior year, and then, unbeknownst to me, he wrote cover letters and sent them to more than 100 companies in the northwest suburbs. He spared me the pain of opening the multitude of rejection letters, but in the course of driving up from Champaign to interview with a dozen or so, I found a good match, and I accepted a job offer to work with Bob Sandage and his AV graphics company in West Dundee. That company merged with Pepper Group in 1998, and I've essentially never changed jobs from that one Dad found 39 years ago. I think my own kids can attest to multiple instances where I've overstepped boundaries in trying to do what I thought was best for them. Lastly, both of my parents' love for the outdoors taught me that it's essential to regularly go for a walk into the forest, sit still on a log, and just listen to the animals. It's indeed one of the finer things in life.
Hi, thanks everyone for coming. I'm Joel, and I'd just like to point out that except for the windy day in the trailer, it's actually one of my fondest memories because I was only 5 and didn't really understand what a tornado would be. The trailer, but it seemed pretty cool to me. So. How do you sum up a full life? You can't. I can share some moments and influences in my life. My dad was a great teacher. A teacher of skills to us. A lot of that learned while building the family cabin in Wisconsin, but he also was a teacher by example, by working hard and building a career to enjoy. He once told me that besides his first job working on a mill press in high school, he truly enjoyed every one of them, and he changed the job to be what he wanted. He traveled the country on sales calls and chose the one that interested him because he loved to travel and he loved to drive his whole life. And he loved teaching and sharing his knowledge, so he created a paint systems presentation at UW-Madison for a trade show each year. You don't need a new job, you just need to change the job description. Our trailer trips, first in Argosy and then an Airstream trailer throughout the country, helped me see so many different things at a young age. Spring breaks, I remember the most, of Florida and the South. red clay of Alabama in a small town at a small manufacturer parking lot, occupying our time for 3 hours as Dad does a business presentation and then off to a campground. We deducted the miles as a business expense. He was always so pleased with those sales calls. They were created because we knew where we were going to start and we knew where we were going to end. And he looked at the points in between, found small towns and businesses, came up with a proposal for them, and besides making an official business trip, sometimes work, and then he would make the sale. He loved his family so much, and we loved him. He was so proud of us, and often revel in all his children and grandchildren and great-grandchild accomplishments. School, career, sports, everything. Since the kids left home, of course, we didn't see them as much as we did, but he always made sure we talked by phone and visited when we could. And after Mom passed away 5 years ago, you could see just how much he really loved and missed her. They shared so many great memories on trips they had together, especially Alaska twice. This is from Alaska. And being a snowbird, alternating between Florida and Arizona every year, going back to their same favorite spots. Some of my biggest memories of Dad while I was in high school was his support and love of my sports. Played football and I did track with high school. He went to every single football game and back and forth for countless practices to pick me up after over 15 miles round trip. He didn't miss a single meet of mine and recorded every throw in this book right here. Yellow label maker, imprinted, Joel Underwood /discus. As every one of my meet throws, the other players' comments on the wind. All that's in here. This is a precious memory. And as he would, he even made a business proposal to Gill Track Equipment. And I was able to get a deal in ordering my own wooden metal discus for my personal use, which is a rare luxury for throwers to have. And it wasn't just the support, but how he really got involved, learning about the sport and becoming interested in it, because we were interested in it. He did the same for my curling, as I kind of choose more obscure sports and whatnot, but watching the Olympics and asking questions and just really enjoyed finding out about what interested all of us. But he would have followed whatever interest I had or any of us had. He was an idea person his whole life, and always liked to think through them and explain them and redo them and come up with different ideas. I'm sure there are over 100 yellow legal pads in the house that I can find, with measurements and drawings describing new projects and how it could work. Pretty sure he enjoyed the idea process better than the finishing of the project, but he did get a lot of it done. Researching new materials and for projects and talking with different craftsmen and was something he really enjoyed and got into. And that rubbed off on all three of us, but I keep my ideas on my phone now. As we've all mentioned, he loved the outdoors, and his biggest joy was the Octagon cabin he designed, and we as a family built back in the 70s. We spent so many weekends heading up there to build and enjoy the cabin. Thankfully, I was younger and I didn't have friends I'd hang out with, so I wasn't being taken away from my high school friends, but it was really enjoyable. And it was a 3-hour ride, so when you're 3 years old and around every single corner through windy gravel roads, this it? And that's how the property became named This It, despite parental points to change it to things like Owl's Valley. You know how nicknames work, so sorry, Mom. Countless family memories have been made there, and we will keep that cabin for new memories for generations to come. That will be a tribute to both Mom and Dad, and one of the ways to keep their memories alive. Through all of these adventures in his life, he collected so many stories and loved to share them, and by doing so would relive them in his memory. And that is what I plan to do, my stories of Dad.
I'd like to thank everyone who came out today to celebrate and remember the life of Ronald David Underwood. It means more than you know to our family. A shout out to our family and friends who could not join us but are watching. We feel your love and we know you wish you could be here. My name is Susan. Dave is my father-in-law. Fake it till you make it. That pretty much sums up my relationship with Dave. When I first started dating Kevin in high school, I heard many stories of Dave. He could be very intimidating. After some time, it was very clear to me that Dave did not like me. If you know Dave, you know that hiding his opinions was not something he was very good at. It wasn't hard to see he did not like me. I took comfort in knowing that Dave did not like anyone that dated his voice. I tried not to take it personally. Through time, he started to be more accepting of me. By that I mean he started to realize that I wasn't going anywhere, so it was either get on board or jump off. He got on board, but it took many years, and giving him a few grandchildren along the way may have had something to do with that. I will never forget the day our relationship changed. He called our house and wanted to talk to me. I remember trying to give the phone back to my husband. We did that several times before I said hello. I remember thinking this could not be good. He proceeded to tell me about this new popcorn maker that you put in the microwave and it made healthy popcorn. He found out I was trying to diet and called to tell me of this new invention. He was very excited to share the information. I hung up stunned, but realized at that time he did care. After that, our relationship began to grow steadily throughout the years. He became more interested and involved in our daily lives. Some might say too involved. A couple of years after Jan passed away, he reached out to me and asked me to help him with insurance forms and paperwork. He also wanted me to make calls to various companies, to nobody's surprise, to complain about a bunch of procedures and poor customer service. Not sure why he asked me to handle this task, but I was not about to fail him. I faked it until I made it. Over the last 4 months since this journey started, I had never felt closer to Dave than right now. He didn't speak that often, but when I talked and he laughed, he needed me. When I fed him and he ate more because I asked him to, sometimes demanded, he needed me. When he lost weight, I found him some new clothes to make him feel better, he needed me. Now that he is no longer with us, I've had many moments to think. It turns out that while he was needing me, I was needing him more. We were no longer faking it, we both made it.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 354, We Laugh, We Cry, and in the unlikely event that you are singing from a hymnal, we're doing only verse 1 and 3.
to receive, and we believe that
Now we have come to a time that has been set aside for the sharing of memories from friends of Dave's from all walks of his life. If you would like to share a memory or a few words about Dave, you're invited to come forward to the microphone. Let us know your name and how you knew him, and whatever it is that you would like to share. If you are unable or uncomfortable coming to the front, we do have a portable microphone. You can raise your hand and we'll bring it to you. We do ask that you use the microphone so that those joining us online can hear. And if you are joining us online, you're welcome to type your memories into the chat, then we'll read them aloud on your behalf. The time for remembering Dave is now open.
Hi, this is a little impromptu, I guess, but he was a great grandfather. He was my only one that I was alive for, so that was nice. I like spending time with him. This is friend sharing. I like to think we were friends. He was good. There's a video on YouTube from my dad of us jumping on bubble wrap with him in the room, and he just laughing the whole time. It was so fun. Yeah, he made a lot of things happen, and Georgia was especially fun with us there, and that was the most time I've spent with him, I think, so that was an amazing memory to have. He was a great grandfather.
So this is going to be kind of an unusual two-part thing. The first time I met Dave Underwood was at a circle supper, and didn't know many people here at the church. And I had this lovely conversation with him about all kinds of things that I didn't understand half of, but he was very enthusiastic about it. And one of the things, he shared a story basically about Jan, about when she wanted to see some bird on some island off Alaska, and I'm not going into details, but he drove her, and well, he drove himself because he enjoyed driving, but to Alaska and to Anchorage, and I just thought how adventuresome and how lovely that they could have this experience together. And when they got there, my understanding is she got on a plane and actually flew to this little island to see this bird, and he stayed back, but anyway, I had a really good feeling about Dave, not knowing him very well at all. And the second thing, it was actually my family cabin in Georgia that's been spoken of, and when they returned, Dave wrote a beautiful letter thanking our family for sharing the cabin because it was such a nice experience for his family. So I know more of you have more intimate memories and relationship with Dave, but for somebody that was on the periphery of his life, I will remember him and tell stories about him for a long time to come.
Hi, my name's Dave Yeager. I was with Dave in a men's group and learned a lot about him. He was proud that he built this house that he lived in, and it was really a nice area to be in. Dave had a huge heart, and he was always open to help other people out. And we had a lot of questions and answers that we shared with each other that I can't share now because it was a men's group. It was private, but we had fun. And the one thing I do remember was Dave missed Jan. He loved her immensely, and he was a great man. And I'm going to miss him too.
I am Roman Dyer. I'm one of Dave's grandchildren. And
one thing I really wanted to talk about Dave that I don't feel like was mentioned today was how he liked to keep us all connected to the past and our traditions and our family roots. I still got the the minted coin set from my birth year. I know each of at least like the grandchildren got a set for the year you were born, as well as I've got a ton of newspapers from important dates and stuff from my childhood and everything. And as a millennial in this world, I don't probably spend all that much time thinking about where it all began. So I think without his encouragement, without his relentless documentation of life, that I probably wouldn't have half as many memories as I do. So.
Hello, I'm John Cleveland, and I only met Dave a few times, to be very honest. I'm fortunate enough as a father to look out and see his 3 sons, and as a father, I can think of no greater testament to love and kindness than to look out and see these 3 fine people and the families that they have made. I think as a father, I would be so proud. As I haven't met Dave many times. He always scared the heck out of me. I met his son Kevin at university a long time ago up in northern Wisconsin. And I heard stories. I heard stories of the cabin. I remember making the first trip to the cabin. I remember making a clandestine trip down to Elgin one time with his son in the car. And hearing that he built the house and just being amazed. I hadn't met the other 2 brothers at that point, but it all sounded so exotic to me. And then Dave came in and he was a big character. He filled the room. I'm like, holy cow, he's gonna recognize me as the country bumpkin I am. And he seemed like he had his act together. He's the guy that had a Toyota Celica Supra. And I had an AMC Pacer, and he had a Supra. He had what was it? He had that van, the Silver Bullet, right? Yeah. I mean, and then he went off and he bought a Mercury Mercure. What an exotic, weird, terrible car. And I had a terrible car, so I knew we had something in common. When I would come over, and I've hearing what I've heard this afternoon, I can only say I wish I'd been here longer or had more opportunities to meet Bub. When I'd come over to Kevin's place and he'd be there, I have to say, as intimidating as he was to me, he always immediately soothed that over. And we always found great things to chat about. And when I left, I'd always feel, my gosh, what a great opportunity to get to chat to that person. So, the 3 of you and your families are the living testament to Dave and Jan, and it is a good testament. I'm so happy to be part of that, a little bit of that story. Thank you for all of this. Thank you.
I invite everyone to rise again and join in singing our final hymn, Let It Be a Dance. Let it be a dance we
Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
We close our service this afternoon with two prayers. The first from the Jewish tradition. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the glowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Our second prayer comes from the Christian tradition. In your hands, O Lord, we humbly entrust our brothers and sisters. In this life you embrace them with your tender love. Deliver them now from every evil and bid them eternal rest. The old order has passed away. Welcome them into paradise, where there will be no sorrow, no weeping nor pain, but fullness of peace and joy with the Holy Spirit forever and ever. Amen. Let us give thanks for every gift of life that brings us joy, peace, and strength of heart. Let us give thanks for every man or woman whose life speaks to our world of hope and affirmation. That has given thanks for every experience that has expanded our knowledge of ourselves and of the world. That has quickened our imaginations, enlarged our sympathies, and taught us the meaning of love and community. Let us remember in this hour the people who surround us and minister to us, the loved ones who live with us and with whom we share the essentials of life, the friends who stand by us. Let us learn to accept even the hard and bitter things which we have known and suffered, the mysteries of pain, of sickness, of death. We pray that we may gain from them a truer sense of direction in the days ahead. Let us fashion from our grief and sadness a song of praise for the goodness of life. Through our love and memories of Dave, may we be renewed and strengthened in our love for others. Let us strive to be a part of the world's faith and not its fear, its love, not its hate. So may we know in new and deeper ways the bonds that connect us all. Today, we have marked the return of the body of Dave Underwood to the elements from which he came, from which all life springs. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. The cycle has once again turned. We will never see our beloved Dave again, but he will live on in the lives of those he touched. And now we extinguish our chalice. but like the love and memories that we have of Dave, we carry its flame in our hearts. So may it be. And now the family of Dave invites you to join them for some refreshments and sharing downstairs in Fellowship Hall.